significance of the day.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we all are gathered here to celebrate the 150th birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo. Our prestigious institution upholds and follows the very teachings laid down by him and the mother, and we are honored to be observing this auspicious occasion with everyone present. A few devotees of Sri Aurobindo and the mother met in a house in Salt Lake City and conceived the idea of founding a school where a fusion of the formal education and the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and the mother will be possible. Accordingly, they founded Sri Aurobindo Institute of Education in the January of 1983 at BK Block, Salt Lake City, Kolkata. Later, the school expanded at CL Block. Our new building is called Miranga, signifying the lap of the mother. Our motto, it is not brilliant students that we want, but living souls, captures the very essence of our institution.
Was a groundbreaking personality. He was born in a highly westernized family. Young Aurobindo was brought up speaking English but communicated with the servants in Hindustani. Dr. 𝐃𝐲𝐬𝐿 Ghosh, his father, always felt the British culture to be superior than whatever India had to offer. Thus, Sri Aurobindo, along with his brothers, was sent to London to study further. As a student, he was brilliant in studies. He took special interest in Latin, French, and arithmetic. While studying in King's College in London, Sri Aurobindo became aware of the British atrocities in India through his father's numerous letters. He opened the secret Lotus and Dagger Society while still in London to awaken the youth. At the age of 21, he returned to India and took up the job as the Vice Principal of Baroda Imperial College. He devoured the Upanishad, the Vedas, the Ramayana and Mahabharata and learned several Indian languages, including his mother tongue, Bengali.
Sri Aurobindo actively joined politics after the Bengal partition in 1905. The entire nation of India was shaken by the fear and hatred inflicted by Lord Curzon. His editorial writings in Vande Mataram fueled the countrymen with intense nationalism. Sri Aurobindo's involvement in the Aleppo bomb case led to his arrest in 1908. After a year in prison, he isolated himself from active politics and began his spiritual journey. During his 40 years at the Pondicherry Ashram, Sri Aurobindo not only evolved what individual spirituality meant, but also discovered ways to find bliss within oneself. His view of life was radically changed, and he took up yoga as a medium of instruction. Through his years of introspection and self-discovery, the rebel-turned-rishi concluded that spirituality is indeed the master key of the Indian mind. In his historic message for All India Radio, he famously proclaimed, August 15, 1947 is the birthday of Free India. It marks for her the end of an old era, the beginning of a new age. But we can also make it by our life and act as a free nation, an important date in a new age, opening for the whole world, for the political, social, cultural and spiritual future of humanity. August 15th is my own birthday, and it is naturally gratifying to me that it should have received this vast significance. I take this coincidence not as a fictitious accident, but as a sanction and seal of the divine force.
ago, on this very day, India achieved its independence. 15th of August encapsulates the privilege of being born in a free India. It is essential to remember the pangs of anguish of being enslaved under colonial rule. The road to freedom was an arduous struggle. It was indeed a Herculean task to fight against those British giants. The idea of being an independent nation felt like a far-fetched dream after the revolt of 1857. Brave sepoys like Mangal Pandey and the fearless Queen of Jhansi fought till their last breath but were unable to overthrow their British foes. The early nationalists had unlimited faith in the British sense of justice and fair play. Dadabhai Naoroji was aware enough to understand the importance of English language in order to effectively deal with the British government. The nationalists, however, were unable to achieve their aim of self-government. By the tail end of 19th century, India's sky was cast with dark clouds of misfortune. The country was ravaged by famine and plague. The partition of Bengal was a truly defining event in the history of India. It was an attempt to strike at the very unity of Bengali nationalism and crush the valiant attempt of the masses. The partition of Bengal was effected on October 16, 1905. The Amrit Bazar Patrika wrote, "Never were the sentiments of a nation consisting of tens of millions so wantonly ravaged as in the case of Bengal partition. The cities and towns rang with the cry of Bande Mataram, symbolizing patriotism and unity." Leaders in the history of India. Most aggressive among them were Bal Gangadhar Tilak, B.C. Pal and Aurobindo Ghosh. Lala Lajpat Rai famously proclaimed, "An Englishman hates nothing like beggary. It is our duty to tell them that we are no longer beggars." These congressmen were no longer ready to pray and petition to the British government. They wanted self-government, something that we Indians rightfully deserved. Suppressed Indians were ready to lay their lives for their motherland. Many died in that attempt. Khudiram Bose, a young nationalist, lost his life in an attempt to assassinate the ruthless overlords. Sri Aurobindo Ghosh was arrested from his brother's house for his involvement in anti-British movements. Our nation was losing some of our most precious sons to the atrocities of British.
কারা রইল কপাট ভেঙে ফেল করে রূপাট রক্ত জমাট শিকল পূজার পাষাণ বেদী
কারা রইল কপাট ভেঙে ফেল করে রূপাট রক্ত জমাট শিকল পূজার পাষাণ বেদী
ওরে ও তরু নিশান বাজা তোর প্রলয় নিশান ধ্বংস নিশান প্রাচীর প্রাচীর ভেদী ওরে ও তরু নিশান বাজা তোর প্রলয় নিশান ধ্বংস নিশান প্রাচীর প্রাচীর ভেদী কারা রইল কপাট ভেঙে ফেল করে রূপাট রক্ত জমাট শিকল পূজার পাষাণ বেদী।
A man returned to India early in 1915 after fighting for human rights in South Africa. He became the force behind our struggle for freedom. He is none other than the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi. He immediately took up the issues of peasants in Champaran and solved nationwide problems and grievances strictly by the policy of Satyagraha, the force born of truth, and ahimsa, non-violence. Gandhi said, "There is no way to peace, there is only peace." The Jallianwala Bagh tragedy shook the very foundation of our country. The utmost pain and horror inflicted on the Indians were indescribable. Gandhiji was shocked by the event and called for the non-cooperation movement. The message of Swadeshi spread in the air. Rabindranath and many others renounced their titles and awards. Any awards by the government were regarded as badges of slavery. On 12th March, he began the historic march from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi. On his way, hundreds of men and women walked along with him. On reaching the seashore, he picked up a handful of salt, signaling to the countrymen to violate the much resented salt laws. On 30th January 1948, a fanatic shot at our beloved Bapu with Ram Nam on his lips. He succumbed to his injuries.
Independence is incomplete without Subhash Chandra Bose. Bengal's fearless son travelled overseas to acquire support for India's victory. Subhash's motto was, "My enemy's enemy is my friend." He took the supreme command of the Indian National Army. His famous slogan still stirs our heart to this day. "Give me blood and I will give you freedom." The INA's victories on the Indian soil were short-lived. The INA men were disarmed and made prisoners of war. The surrender of Japan sealed the fate of the INA. What happened to Netaji after this still remains a mystery.
When after 300 years in India, the British finally left. The subcontinent was ravaged by the colonial replications. India was said to be partitioned against the will of hundreds of thousands. Gandhi was saddened by the turn of events and expressed, "We are brothers with one soul. To divide us on religious grounds would be against the will of God." The partition was imminent. Immediately, there began one of the greatest migrations in human history. The horrors of partition in 1947 will always be a terrifying, blood-stained blot in the legacy of free India. Many hundreds of thousands never made it to the other side of the border. The carnage was especially intense, with arson, violence, and savagery from both sides of the border. The overwhelming casualties haunt us even till this day.
Today, 75 years down the line, we are fortunate enough to live in a free nation due to the vision and sacrifice of our freedom fighters. This day is a plethora of emotions. It reminds us of the pain of being enslaved, of the strength in love and compassion. It defines sacrifice. It gives us an example that some war can be won with non-violence. And of all the things, it makes us value and cherish the freedom we have today. It is our responsibility as proud citizens of this country to sincerely perform our duty and progress together for its growth and development. Keeping the sacrifices of our ancestors in mind, we should take an oath to carve a better future for our nation and live harmoniously. Sri Aurobindo once said, "Do not belong to the past noons, but to the dawns of the future." And with a little perspective and tolerance, we can achieve bliss ourselves. Jai Hind.
সার্থক জনম আমার জন্মেছি এই দেশে, সার্থক জনম মাগো তোমায় ভালোবেসে।